Did you hear us playing, Lane?
I didn't think it polite to listen, sir.
I'm sorry for that, for your sake. I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately, but I play with wonderful expression. As far as the piano is concerned, sentiment is my forte. I keep science for life.
Yes, sir.
And speaking of the science of life, have you got the cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Bracknell?
Yes, sir.
Oh, by the way, Lane, I see from your book that on Thursday night, when Lord Shorman and Mr. Wood were dining with me, 8 bottles of champagne having been put in as being consumed.
Yes, sir. 8 bottles and a pint.
Why is it that at a bachelor's establishment, the servants invariably drink the champagne? I merely ask for information.
I attribute it to superior quality of the wine, sir. I've often observed that in married households, the champagne is rather first-rate product.
Good heavens! Is marriage so demoralizing as that?
I believe it is a very pleasant state, sir, though I have very little experience with it myself, for I've only been married once, and that was in consequence of a misunderstanding between myself and a young person.
I don't think I'm much interested in your family life, Lane.
No, sir. It is not a very interesting subject. I do not think of it myself.
Very natural, I am sure. Natural, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lane's views on marriage seem so much lax. Really, if the lower orders don't set us a good example, what on earth is the use of them? They seem, as a class, to have absolutely no sense of moral responsibility.
Mr. Earnest Worthing.
My dear Ernest, what brings you up to down?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What brings anyone anywhere? Eating as usual, I see, Alfie.
I believe it's customary in good society to take slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since last Thursday?
In the country.
What on earth do you do there?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
And who are the people you amuse?
Oh, neighbours, neighbours.
Got nice neighbours in your part of Shropshire.
Perfectly horrid. Never speak to a single one of them.
Oh, how immensely you must amuse them. Shropshire is your county, is it not?
Shropshire? Yes. Hello. Why so many cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who are you expecting?
Oh, merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn. How perfectly delightful. Yes, that is all very well, but I don't think Aunt Augusta will quite like your being here.
May I ask why?
My dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly disgraceful. It's almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirted with you.
I'm in love with Gwendolyn. I came here expressly to propose to her.
I find you come for pleasure. I call that business.
How perfectly unromantic you are.
I really don't see anything romantic in proposing. It is very romantic to be in love, but there's nothing romantic about a definite proposal. Why? One may be accepted. One usually is, I believe. Then the excitement is all over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If ever I get married, I shall certainly try to forget the fact.
Oh, I certainly believe that. The divorce codes were made specifically for those whose minds are so constituted as yours.
There's no speculation on that subject. Divorces are made in heaven. Please don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They are for Aunt Augusta.
But you have been eating them all the time.
That is a quite different matter. She is my aunt. Have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn is devoted to bread and butter.
And what good bread and butter it is, too.
My dear fellow, you must not eat it as you're going to eat it all. You eat as if you were married to already. You're not, and I don't think you will be.
And why on earth do you say that?
My dear fellow, girls never marry the men they flirt with. Girls don't think it right.
That is nonsense.
It isn't. It's a great truth. It accounts for the extraordinary number of bachelors one sees all over the place. In the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
My dear fellow, Gwendolyn is my first cousin. Before I allow you to marry her, you have to clear the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What on earth do you mean by Cecily? I don't know anyone named Cecily. How do you know what you mean?
Bring that cigarette case Mr. Worthing left in the dining room last time he dined here.
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to say that you have had my cigarette case all this time? I wish to goodness you would have told me. I have been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard. I was just nearly about to put out a reward for it.
Well, I wish you would give one. I have to be more than usually hard up.
There's no use in putting out a reward now that the thing has been found.
I am very hurt by what you say, Ernest. But now that I look on the inscription inside, I find this thing isn't yours after all.
What do you mean? Of course it's mine. You've seen it hundreds of times. Besides, it's ungentlemanly to read the private inscription on one's cigarette case.
This but isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is a gift from someone of the name Cecily. You said you didn't know anyone of that name.
Well, you must know. Cecily is my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, charming old lady. Lives in Tunbridge Wells.
Why does your aunt call herself Little? If she is from Tunbridge Wells, I'm your aunt. For little Cecily, with her fondest love.
Well, some aunts are small, some are tall. There is certainly for one aunt to decide for herself. You seem to think all aunts should be exactly like yours, and that is not correct. Now, please give me my cigarette case.
Why? Yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From little Cecily, with the fondest love, to dear Uncle Jack. There is no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt. But why an aunt, no matter what her size may be, should call her own nephew her uncle, I can't quite make out. Besides, it means that Jack at all is Ernest.
It isn't Ernest, it's Jack.
You have always told me it was Ernest. I introduced you to everyone as Ernest. You answered to the name of Ernest. You look as if your name was Ernest. You are the most earnest-looking person I ever saw in my life. It is perfectly absurd to say that your name isn't Ernest. Here, it's on your cards. Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, Albany. I'll keep this as proof if you're tempted to deny it to me, to Gwendolyn, or to anyone else.
Oh, it's Ernest in town and Jack in the country. And the cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but there's not account for your little Aunt Cecily who calls you her uncle. Come, old boy, you must better be out there at once. I must say, I have always suspected you of being a Bunburyist, and I'm quite sure now.
What on earth do you mean by Bunburyist?
I'll tell you the meaning of the incomparable expression as soon as you're kind enough to tell me where you earned in town in Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Pray make your explanation improbable.
There's nothing improbable about my explanation. In fact, it's perfectly ordinary. You see, the late Mr. Thomas Cardew took me in when I was a little boy and made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew, who, for reasons you couldn't possibly understand, calls me her uncle. Then, she lives in my house in the country under the care of her governess, Miss Prism.
Where is that place in the country, might I ask?
Oh, I won't tell you that, but I will have you know that it is not in Shropshire.
I suspected that, my dear fellow. I have Bunburyed all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now, go on, old boy. You must tell me why you were Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, when one is placed under the role of guardian, one has to take up a high moral tone. Well, while a high moral tone can hardly be said to bring one happiness, I have invented a brother by the name of Earnest who gets into a lot of trouble and lives in the Albany, so that I may come to town and save him. That is the whole truth, Your Excellency.
The truth is rarely pure, never simple. Modern logic would be very tedious to either. Modern literature, complete impossibility.
That would not be a bad thing.
Literary criticism is not your forte, my dear fellow. Don't try it. Leave that to the people at Bennett University. They do it so well in the daily papers. What you really are is a Bunburyist. I was quite right in saying that you were a Bunburyist. You're one of the most advanced Bunburyists I know.
What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a very useful younger brother of the name of Earnest, so that you may be able to come to town whenever you like. I have invented a very useful permanent invalid of a friend called Bunbury. Bunbury is perfectly valuable. If it wasn't for Bunbury's extraordinary bad health, for instance, I would be able to dine for tonight's businesses. For I really have been engaged on Augusta for more than a week now.
I haven't asked you to dine with me anyway tonight.
Yes, you're so bad at sending out invitations. It's very foolish of you. No one likes not being sent out invitations.
You had better not dine with your Aunt Augusta.
I would be doing nothing of the kind. To begin with, I dined there on Monday, and once a week is more than enough to dine with one's own relations. Second place, I know exactly who she will place me next to. Mary Farquhar, who's always flirts with her husband across the dinner table. That is not very pleasant. Not even decent. It is simply washing one's clean linen in public. Besides, now that you know you can be a Bunbury, I naturally want to talk to you about Bunburying. I want to tell you the rules.
I'm not a Bunbury at all. In fact, I'm going to kill off Earnest. As long as Gwendolyn accepts me, well, I might do it anyway. Cecily has taken quite a liking to him, and it's rather a bore. And I suggest you do the same to your invalid friend, Cecilia.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. Don't you know that the man who marries a Bunbury has a very tedious time of it?
If I marry a sweet girl like Gwendolyn, I certainly wouldn't want to know Bunbury.
Then your wife will. Don't you know that in married life he is company and to his none?
That, my friend, is what the French dramas have been propounding for the last 50 years.
Yes, in the English home has proved in half the time.
Oh, don't try to be cynical. It is perfectly easy to be cynical.
It isn't easy to be anything nowadays. Such a lot of ghastly competition about. That was the Aunt Augusta, only relatives and creditors that bring that Wagnerian manner. If I get Aunt Augusta out of the room, 10 minutes, so that you may propose to Gwendolyn, will you dine with me tonight at Ulysses?
I suppose so. Yes, you want to.
But you must be serious about it. I hate people not serious about meals. So shallow about it.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you're behaving very well.
I'm feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
I'm afraid that's not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things rarely go together.
Dear me, you are smart.
I am always smart. Am I not, Mr. Worthing?
You are quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I'm not that. It will leave no room for developments, and I intend to develop in many directions. I'm sorry for a little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I haven't seen her since her poor husband's death. I've never seen a woman look so altered. She looked quite 20 years younger. And now, I have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Of course, Aunt Augusta. Good heavens, Lane, where are the cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
There are no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir. I went down twice.
No cucumbers?
No, sir. Nothing for ready money.
That will do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Aunt Augusta, greatly distressed to say that there are no cucumbers, not even for ready money.
It really makes no matter, Algernon. I had some crumpets when I dined with Lady Harbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure now.
I think it has from gold from grief.
It certainly has changed its colour, from what cause I, of course, cannot say. Thank you. I've coined the trees for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to send you down with Mary Farquhar. She is such a nice woman, and so attentive to her husband. It is delightful to watch them.
I'm greatly distressed to say, Aunt Augusta, that I will not give the dining tonight after all.
Oh, I hope not, Algernon. It would put my table completely out. Your uncle has gone upstairs, and fortunately, he's accustomed to that.
The fact is, Aunt Augusta, that I just had a telegram saying that poor Bunbury's very ill again. They seem to think I should do with him.
That is very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Poor Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I must say, Algernon, I think it is high time this Mr. Bunbury made up his mind who's going to live or to die. This shilly-shally, the question is absurd. Illness is hardly a thing to be encouraged in others. Health is a primary duty of life. I'm always telling that to your poor uncle, but he never seems to take much notice. As far as the improvement of his ailment goes, I should be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury for me to not have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music for me. It is my last reception, and what about something that will encourage conversation, particularly at the end of the season, when everyone has said practically what they had to say, which, in most cases, was probably not much.
I'll speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he's still conscious, and I think I can guarantee it'll be all right by Saturday. The music, on the other hand, is great difficulty. You see, one plays good music, people don't listen. One plays bad music, people don't talk. I'll look up the programs on Donna. If you'll follow me to the next room for a moment.
Thank you, Algernon. It's very thoughtful of you. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People soon think they're improper, and I look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German sounds a thoroughly respectable language, and indeed, I believe it is so. Gwendolyn, you'll accompany me. Certainly, Mamma.
Fine day it is, Miss Fairfax.
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain that they mean something else, and that makes me so nervous.
I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I'm never wrong.
I would like to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly like you to do so. Mamma has a way of suddenly coming back into the room that I have often had to speak to her about.
You see, Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any girl I've ever met since, well, I met you.
Yes, I'm quite well aware of the fact, and I often wish that in public, at any rate, you have been more demonstrative. For me, you have always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideas. The fact is constantly being mentioned in the more expensive monthly magazines, and has reached the provincial pulpits, I am told. But my ideal has always been to love someone of the name of Earnest. There is something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. From the moment Algernon first mentioned to me their friend called Ernest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me, Gwendolyn.
Passionately.
Darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Ernest.
But you don't really mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest.
But your name is Ernest.
Yes, I know it is, but suppose it wasn't. Could you still love me?
That's clearly a metaphysical speculation, and like most metaphysical speculations, has very little reference to the actual facts of your life as we know them.
Oh, personally, darling, I don't quite like the name Earnest. I don't think it suits me.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Well, I think there are a lot much nicer names. Jack, for instance, is a great name.
Jack? No. There is very little music of the name Jack, if any at all indeed. It does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. I have known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, have been more than usually plain. Besides, Jack is a notorious domesticity for John, and I pity any woman who is married to a man called John. She would probably never be allowed to know the intrinsic pleasure of a single man in solitude. The only really safe name is Earnest.
Gwendolyn, I must be christened at once. I mean, we must be married once.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
But of course, you know that I love you, and you let me believe that you are not indifferent to me.
I adore you, but you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject has not even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity, and to spare you any disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I think it's only fair to tell you, quite frankly beforehand, that I'm fully determined to accept.
Oh, Gwendolyn,
Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me?
you know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Of course I will, darling. How long you've been about it, I'm afraid you have very little experience in how to propose.
Well, I've never loved anyone more than you.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does, or my girlfriends tell me so. But wonderful blue eyes you have, Ernest. They are quite blue. I hope you will always look to me just like that, especially when there are other people present.
Mr. Worthing, rise up from the semi-recumbent posture. It is most indecorous.
Mamma, I must beg you to retire. Mr. Worthing is not quite finished yet.
Finish. What, may I ask?
I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing.
Pardon me? You are not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged to someone, I, or your father, should his health permit him, will inform you of the fact. Engagement should come upon the young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant as the case may be. It is hardly a matter she could decide for herself. Now I have some questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. While I make these inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mamma!
In the carriage, Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn, the carriage.
Yes, Mamma.
You may take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you do not stand on my list of eligible young men. Though I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Walton has. We work together, in fact. Although I'm quite ready to enter your name, should your aunt's be to really affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Yes, I must admit I smoke.
I'm glad to hear it. There are far too many idle in London, and a man should always have an occupation of some kind. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. I am of the opinion that a man who desires to get married should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I am pleased to hear it. I will not allow anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate exotic fruit. Touch it and the bloom is gone. Fortunately, in England, at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would likely lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. What's your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or investments?
In investments, chiefly.
That is not unsatisfactory. Between the duties expected of one during one's life and the duties exacted of one after one's life, land has used to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and prevents one from keeping it up. That's what the keeps about land.
I have a house in the country, with land to it, of course. But I don't depend on that for my real income. As far as I can make out, the poachers are the only ones who make anything of it.
A country house? How many bedrooms? Oh, that point can be done afterwards. You have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature such as Gwendolyn could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
I have a house in Belgrave Square. It is lent out a year to Lady Bloxham. But I give it back with 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham? I don't know her.
Oh, she's a woman who goes about very little. She is reasonably advanced in years.
Nowadays there's no guarantee of respectability of character. What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
The unfashionable side. And I thought there was something, however, that could be easily altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both, if necessary, I presume. What's your politics?
I must admit I have none. I am a liberal unionist.
Oh, they come as Tories. They dine with us or come in the evening at any rate. Now moving on to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I must admit I have lost
one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as a misfortune, but to lose both looks like carelessness. Who is your father? He was evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born into what the radical papers call the purple of Kosch, or did he rise to the ranks of the aristocracy?
You see, Lady Redcomb, I said that I lost my parents, but it is nearer the truth that they seem to have lost me. You see, well, I was found.
Found?
Yes, Lady Redcomb. The old Thomas Cardew found me when I was a little boy and gave me the name of Worthing. It was a ticket he had in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort.
And where did this charitable gentleman with a first-class ticket to a seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, Lady Redcomb. A somewhat large, capacious handbag with handles to it. An ordinary handbag, in fact.
And in what locality did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew find you in this ordinary-looking handbag?
It was given to him in the Victoria Station. It was mistaken for his own.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station?
The Brighton line.
The line is immaterial, Mr. Worthing. I confess I feel somewhat bewildered what you just told me. To be born or to be bred in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display the ordinary decencies of family life that reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know where the unfortunate movement led to, as to the particular locality in which the handbag was found. A cloakroom at a railway station might simply conceal a social indiscretion, which it most definitely has been used before now, but it can hardly be regarded as an assured basis for a recognized position in good society.
Then what may you have me do? I need hardly say I would do anything for Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to make some relations and make a definite effort to produce one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
I don't know how I'm going to do that. I can produce the handbag at any moment. It's in my closet back at home. I suppose I should please you, Lady Gretel.
Me, sir? What has it to do with me? You could hardly imagine that Lord Bracknell and myself would want our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Good morning. Algie, cut that ghastly tune. How idiotic you are!
Did it go off all right, old boy? Oh, don't tell me Gwendolyn refused you. I know it is the way she has, always refusing people, that girl. I think it's most ill-natured of her.
Oh, Gwendolyn is right as a trivet. As far as she is concerned, we are engaged. Her mother, on the other hand, is perfectly unbearable. I've never met such a gorgon. I don't really know what gorgon's like, but I am quite sure that she is one. In any case, she's a monster, without being a myth, which is rather unfair. I beg your pardon, Algie. I probably shouldn't talk about your own arms in this way.
My dear boy, I love hearing my relations abused. It's the only reason I put up with them at all. Relations are simply a tedious pack of people who have got the remotest knowledge of how to live, or the smallest instinct of when to die.
Oh, that's nonsense.
It isn't.
Well, I won't argue with you about that. We want to argue about things.
It's exactly what things were originally made for.
Algie, you don't think that in about 150 years or so, Gwendolyn will be anything like her mother, do you?
Oh, but women that become like their mothers, that is their tragedy. No man does. That's his.
Is that clever?
Just perfectly phrased, as any observation in civilized life should be.
Oh, I'm sick to death of cleverness. Everyone is clever nowadays. Can't go anywhere without meeting clever people. It's become an absolute public nuisance. I wish to goodness we had a few fools left. We have. What do they call that?
The fools? About the clever people, of course.
Oh, what fools!
the way, have you told Gwendolyn about your being Earnest in town and Jack in the country?
Oh, the truth isn't something you tell a sweet innocent girl like Gwendolyn. What strange ideas you have on how to treat a woman.
What about your brother? What about the prophet Earnest?
Oh, I'll have killed him off by the end of the week. I'll say he died in Paris of apoplexy. Lots of people die quite suddenly of apoplexy, don't they?
Yes, but it's hereditary, my dear fellow. You would much better say a severe chill.
And you're quite sure that a severe chill is hereditary or anything of that kind?
Of course it isn't.
Like then, my poor brother Ernest, carried off by a severe chill. I get rid of him.
Wasn't Miss Cardew a little too much interested in Ernest? Won't she feel his loss a good deal?
Oh, that's all right. Gwendolyn isn't a silly romantic girl. She goes on long walks, has a good appetite, and doesn't pay any attention to her lessons.
I would rather like to see Cecily.
I will take great care that you don't. She is excessively pretty and is only just 8.
Have you told Gwendolyn that you're an excessively pretty ward who's only just 18?
Oh, that isn't just something you blurt out. Besides, I'm quite sure that Gwendolyn or Cecily will get along well. I'll bet you anything that within the first 30 minutes of meeting each other, they'll be calling each other sister.
Women only do that and call each other a lot of other things first. Now, my dear boy, if you want to get good tip at Willis, you really must go and dress. Did you know it is nearly 7?
Oh, it is always nearly 7.
Well, I'm hungry.
I never knew you when you weren't.
What shall we do after dinner? Go to the theatre?
Oh no, I loathe listening.
Well, let us go to a club.
Oh no, I hate talking.
Well, we might trot round to the Empire. 10?
Oh, I can't stand to look at things. It is so silly.
Well, what shall we do?
Nothing.
It's perfectly very hard to do nothing. I don't mind hard work with no definite object of any kind.
Miss Fairfax.
Gwendolyn, upon my word!
Algie, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Really, Gwendolyn, I don't think I can allow this at all.
Algie, you always adopt a strictly immoral attitude towards life. You're not quite old enough to do that.
Oh, Gwendolyn.
Ernest, we may never be married. From the expression on Mamma's face, I fear that we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regard to what the children say to them, and the old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Whatever influence I ever had over Mamma, I lost at the age of 3. But although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else, and marry often, nothing she can say can alter my eternal devotion to you.
Oh, my own one.
The story of your romantic origin, as related to me by Mamma, with unpleasing comments, has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination, and the simplicity of your character makes you exquisitely incomprehensible to me. Your town address at the Albany I have. What is your address in the country?
The Manor House. Bolton, Hertfordshire.
Goes to the postal service, I suppose. May be necessary to do something desperate. That, of course, will require serious consideration. I will communicate with you daily.
Oh, darling.
How long do you wait in town?
Till Monday.
Good. Algie, you may turn round now.
Thanks, I've turned around already.
You may also ring the bell.
You will let me see you to your carriage?
Certainly.
I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
A glass of sherry. Name?
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, Lane, I'm going Bunbury.
Yes, sir.
I shall probably not be back till Monday. You can put my dress clothes, my smoking jacket, and all my Bunbury suits.
Yes, sir.
I hope tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane.
It never is, sir.
Lane, you're a perfect pessimist.
I do my best to your satisfaction, sir.
Now that is a sweet girl.
What?
What are you so amused about?
No, I'm just worried about poor Bunbury, that is all.
If you're not careful, that Bunbury of yours will get you in some serious scrape someday.
I love scrapes. They're the only things that are ever serious.
Oh, that is nonsense. You always talk nonsense.
Nobody ever does.
Cecily? Cecily! Surely such a utilitarian occupation as the watering of flowers is of a molten duty than yours, especially at the moment when intellectual pleasures await you. The German grammar is on the table. Pray open to page 15. We will repeat yesterday's lesson.
Oh, but I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language. I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after my German lesson.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. They particular stress on their German as he was leaving for town yesterday. Indeed, he always lays stress on your German as he leaves the town.
Dear Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he is so serious that I think he cannot be quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanour is to be especially commended in one so comparatively young as he. I know no one who has a higher sense of duty and responsibility.
I suppose that is why he often looks a little bored when we throw together.
Cecily, I am surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. Idle merriment and triviality would be out of place in his conversation. You must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, his brother.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometime. We might have a good influence over him, Miss Prism. I'm sure that you certainly would. You know German and geology and things of that kind influence a man very much.
And you don't think that even I could produce any sort of effect on a character that, according to his own brother's admissions, is irretrievably weak and vacillating? Indeed, I do not think I would wish to reclaim him. I'm not fond of this modern mania turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so let him reap. You must put away your diary, Cecily. I don't see why you should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter all the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary we all carry about with us.
But it usually chronicles the things that never happened and couldn't possibly have happened. I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all the 3-volume novels that Moody sends us.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in early days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are! I hope it did not end happily. I don't quite like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good, unhappily, and the bad, unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so, but it seems very unfair. And was your novel ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript was, unfortunately, abandoned. I used the word in the sense of lost or mislaid, but to your work, child, the speculations are profitless.
Oh, but I see Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden.
Dr. Chasuble? Oh, this is indeed a pleasure.
How are we this morning? Miss Prism, I do trust you are well.
Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache, Dr. Chasuble. I think it would do her so much good to have a short stroll with you through the park.
Cecily, I have not mentioned anything about a headache.
Oh, no, dear Miss Prism, I know that. But I felt instinctively that you had a headache. In fact, I was thinking about that and not about my German lesson when the rector came in.
Cecily, I do hope you're not being inattentive.
I am afraid I am.
That is quite strange, for were I, fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees. Mr. Worthing, I suppose is still yet to return from town.
We do not expect him till Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes. He does usually like to spend his Sundays in London. He's not a man whose sole aim is pleasure, as that unfortunate young man's brother seems to be. And now I really mustn't disturb Egeria and her pupil any longer.
Egeria? My name is Letitia, Doctor.
Classical illusion merely, drawn from the pagan authors. I'll go that to both of you if you even saw.
I think, dear Doctor, I will have that show with you. If I might have a headache after all, and a walk might do it good.
Excellent. Could they just go to schools and that?
That'd be delightful. Oh, certainly. You'll read the political economy in my absence. The chapter on the fall of the rupee you may admit somewhat too sensational. In these metallic problems have the melodramatic side.
Horrid political economy, horrid geography, horrid German.
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven over from the station. He has brought his luggage with him.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, the Albany West. Uncle Jack's brother! Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss. He seemed very much disappointed. I mentioned that you and Miss Prism were in the garden. He said he was anxious to speak with you privately for a moment.
Ask Mr. Ernest Worthing to come out here. I suppose you had better talk to a housekeeper about a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I have never met any really wicked person before. I feel rather frightened. I am so afraid he will look just like everyone else. He does.
You're my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You must be under some strange mistake. I am not little. In fact, I believe I'm more than usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily, and you, I see from your card, are Uncle Jack's brother, my cousin Ernest. My wicked cousin Earnest.
My dear Cecily, you mustn't think that I'm wicked. I'm really not wicked at all.
If you are not, then you have certainly been deceiving us all in a very inexcusable manner. I hope you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and being really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Well, I have been rather reckless.
I am glad to hear it.
In fact, now that you mention it, I've been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think you should be so proud of that, though I'm sure it must have been very pleasant.
It is much pleasanter being here with you.
I can't understand how you were here at all. Uncle Jack will be back till Monday afternoon.
That is a great disappointment. I'm obliged to go up by the first train on Monday morning. I have a business meeting I'm anxious to miss.
Couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
No, the appointment is in London.
Well, I know, of course, how important it is not to keep business engagement if one wants to retain any sense of the beauty of life. But still, I think you had better wait till Uncle Jack arrives. I know he wants to speak to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
Your emigrating. He has gone up to buy your outfit.
I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He's no taste in neckties at all.
I don't think you will require neckties. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday night that you would have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Well, Cecily, the accounts I have received of the next world and Australia are not particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, cousin Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I'm not that. That is why I would like you to inform me. You might make that your mission, if you don't mind, Cecily.
I'm afraid I've no time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind me reforming myself this afternoon?
It is rather quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
I'm feeling better already.
You are looking a little worse.
But that is because I'm hungry.
Oh, how thoughtless of me! I should have remembered that when one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Thank you. Might I have a buttonhole first? I can never have any appetite unless I have a buttonhole first.
A Marshall meal?
No, I'd much sooner have a pink rose.
Why?
Because you are like a pink rose, cousin Cecily.
I don't think it can be right for you to talk to me like that. Miss Prism never says such things to me.
Then Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. You're the prettiest girl I ever saw.
Miss Prism says that all good looks are a snare.
They are a snare every sensible man would like to be caught in.
I don't think I would care to catch a sensible man. I shouldn't know what to talk to him about.
Oh, you're much too lonely, Dr. Chasuble. You should get married. A Miss Thurp I can understand. A woman Thurp, never.
Believe me, I don't deserve so neologistic a phrase. The precept, as well as the practice of the primitive church, was strictly against matrimony.
Well, that is obviously the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up to the present day. And you do not seem to realize, dear doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man combats himself into a permanent public temptation. Man should be more careful. This very celibacy has led weaker vessels astray.
Is a man not equally as attractive when he is married, though?
No married man is ever attractive. Except to his wife.
How's that been told? Not even to her.
Well, that depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Ripeness can be trusted. Maturity can be depended on. No women are green.
Well,
I spoke horticulturally. My metaphor was drawn from fruits. Where is Cecily?
perhaps she follows the schools.
Mr. Worthing!
Mr. Worthing?
This is indeed a surprise. We did not look for you till Monday afternoon.
I have returned sooner than expected. Dr. Chasuble, I hope you are well.
Mr. Worthing, I do hope this god of woe is not betook some terrible calamity.
My brother,
What terrible debts and extravagance?
Still leading his life of pleasure.
dead,
Your brother, Ernest, dead?
quite dead.
What's a lesson for him? And trust or profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, I must offer you my sincerest condolence. You always have the consolation of knowing you're the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
My poor brother Ernest. He had many faults, but this was a sad, sad blow.
It is a sad blow indeed. Were you with him in the end?
No, he died abroad. Received a telegram from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so let him reap.
Charity, Miss Curzon. Charity. No one's perfect. I myself am becoming susceptible to drafts. Will the interment take place here?
No, he seems to express a desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris? I fear that I will voice any sign of mental clarity in the end. But you will no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion to this tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the manner in the wilderness can be adapted to fit almost any occasion, be it joyous or, in this case, distressing. I've preached at confirmations, christenings, festive days, disintermediation, lot. In fact, the last time I delivered it was, yes, in the cathedral, as a charity sermon on behalf of the Society for Prevention of Discontent among the Upper Orders. The bishop, who was present, was much struck by some of the analogies I'd drawn.
You mentioned christenings. You know how to christen all right. You are continually christening, are you not?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in this parish. I have often spoken to the poor classes on the subject, but they do not seem to know what thrift is.
Now, is there any particular things in who you have interest in still working? Your brother was unmarried, I believe. Was he not?
Yes.
People who live their lives entirely for pleasure usually are.
There is no child I'm particularly fond of children. No. I would like to be christened. This afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
Surely, Mr. Worthing, you've already been christened.
I have no recollection of it.
But have you any grave doubts?
I surely intend to have. Though, if you think I ignore now, if it bothers you any.
Not at all. In fact, the sprinkling or immersion of adults is perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion?
You need not have any apprehensions. A sprinkling is all that's necessary, or I think advisable, whether it's so changeable. What time do you wish it to take place?
Oh, I might trot down around about 5, if that works for you.
Perfectly, perfectly. In fact, I have 2 similar ceremonies around that time. A case of twins that recently occurred in one of your outlying cottages. Poor Jenkins account, a most hard-working man.
Oh, I don't want to be christened with other babies. It seems childish. 5:30 work for you?
Out of it. But now, Mr. Worthing, I would not wish to intrude any more into a house of sorrow. I merely ask if you should not be too bowed down by grief. We're often seeing bitter trials are usually a blessing in disguise.
Seems to me a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Oh, Uncle Jack! I'm glad to see you back. What horrid clothes you have got on. Do go and change them.
Cecily!
My child.
What is the matter, Uncle Jack? Do you look happy? You look as if you had a toothache, and I have got such a surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother!
What?
Your brother Ernest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
But that is nonsense. I don't have a brother.
Oh, don't say that. However badly he may behave to you in the past, he is still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I'll tell him to come out, and you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are most joyful tidings.
After we've all been resigned to his loss, your sudden return seems to me peculiarly distressing.
My brother Ernest in the dining room? This is completely absurd. I don't know what it all means. Good heavens!
Brother John, I have come down from town to tell you that I'm very sorry for the trouble I have caused you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you are not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to shake his hand. I feel this coming down here disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. There is some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, whom he goes to visit so often. And surely there must be much good in one who leaves the pleasures of London to sit by a bed of pain.
Oh, he has been telling you about Bunbury. Has he?
Yes, he has told me all about poor Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Well, I won't have him talk to you about Bunbury or about anything else. It is enough to drive one perfectly frantic.
Well, I admit all the folks were on my side, but I must say Brother John's coldness to me is peculiarly painful. I expect a more enthusiastic welcome, especially considering the first time I have come here.
Uncle Jack, if you do not shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Never?
Never, never, never.
Well, it will certainly be the last I do it.
This is a most beautiful reconciliation. However, I do believe we should be leaving the brothers alone now.
Yes, Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over.
You've done a beautiful act today, dear child.
We must not be premature in our judgment.
I feel very happy.
Algernon, what are you doing here? I don't allow Bunbury in here.
I've put Mr. Ernest's things in the room next to yours, sir. Suppose that is all right.
What?
Mr. Ernest's luggage, sir. I've unpacked it and put it in the room next to yours.
His luggage?
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a large luncheon basket.
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
Miriam, call the dog cart at once. Mr. Earnest has been called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I have not been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
I haven't heard anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the smallest degree.
Oh, I can quite understand that.
Well, Cecily's a dog.
Do not talk of Miss Cardew in that way. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. Why on earth don't you go up and change? It is perfectly heartless to be in deep mourning for a man who's actually staying with you at your house for a whole week. I call it grotesque.
You are not staying with me for a week or for anything else. You've got to catch the 4:05 train.
I certainly wouldn't want to leave you while you were in mourning, which would be most unfriendly. You would do the same for me, I'm sure.
Well, if I go change, will you leave?
Yes, if you're not too long. I've never seen someone take so long to dress with such little result.
It is better than being constantly overdressed as you are.
I'm occasionally a little overdressed. I always make up for it being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous, your conduct an outrage, and your presence in my garden is absurd. But you've got to catch the 4:05 train, and I hope you have a pleasant trip back to town. This bunburying, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
This bunburying has been a great success. But I must see Cecily before I go to make another arrangement for another bunbury. Ah, there she is.
Oh, I merely came back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He's going to get the dog cart for me.
Oh, is he going to take you for a nice drive?
She's going to send me away.
Then have we got to part?
Yes, very painful parting.
It is always painful to part from people whom you have known for a very brief space of time. The absence of old friends one can endure with equanimity, but even a momentary separation from anyone to whom one has just been introduced is almost unbearable.
Thank you.
The dog cart is at the door, sir.
It can wait, Miriam, for 5 minutes.
Yes, miss.
Cecily, if I may speak quite frankly, you seem to me to be absolute personification of perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you will allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
You keep a diary? Oh, do let me read it.
Oh, no, I couldn't possibly. You see, it is a very young girl's record of her own thoughts and impressions and consequently meant for publication. When it appears in volume form, I do hope you will order a copy, but pray, Ernest, don't stop. I delight in taking down your dictation. I have just reached absolute perfection. You can go on, I am quite ready for more. Oh, no, don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell a cough.
Cecily, ever since I laid my eyes on your incomparable beauty, I have dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think that you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily.
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Tell it to come round in the same week, next week.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed if he knew that you were staying on until next week at the same hour.
I don't care about Jack. I don't care about anyone else but you. You will marry me, won't you, Cecily?
You silly boy, of course. Why, we have been engaged since for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months?
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how did you become engaged?
Well, ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you, of course, formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism, and of course a man much talked about is always very attractive. One feels there is something in him, after all. I dare say it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Oh, darling. And when was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last. Worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to end the matter one way or another, and after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear old tree here. The next day, I bought this ring in your name, and this is the little bangle with the true lover's knot I promised you always to wear.
Did I get you this? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you have wonderfully good taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I've always given for your leading such a bad life. And this is the box in which I keep all your dear letters.
But, my dear Cecily, I never wrote you any letters.
You need hardly remind me of that, Ernest. I remember all too well that I was forced to write your letters for you. I wrote always 3 times a week and sometimes oftener.
Oh, do let me read them.
Oh, I couldn't possibly. They would make you far too conceited. The 3 you wrote to me after I'd broken off the engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelled that even now I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But, Cecily, was our engagement ever broken off?
Of course, on the 22nd of last March. You can see the entry if you like. Today I broke off my engagement with Earnest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather still continues charming.
But, Cecily, why did you break off our engagement? What had I done? I had done nothing. Cecily, I'm very much hurt to hear that you break off the engagement, especially when the weather is so charming.
It would hardly have been a really serious engagement if it hadn't been broken off at least once. But I forgave you before the week was out.
Oh, Cecily, you perfect angel.
Oh, you dear romantic boy.
You won't break off the engagement again, will you?
I don't think I could now that I've actually met you. Besides, there is the question of your name.
Yes, of course.
You mustn't laugh at me, darling, but it had always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name was Earnest. There is something about the name that inspires absolute confidence. I pity any poor married woman whose husband is not called Earnest.
But, Cecily, do you mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Earnest?
But what name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
But I don't like the name of Algernon.
My dear Cecily, I really don't see any reason for you to object to the name of Algernon. It is a very nice name. It is very aristocratic, even half the chaps at the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. Really, Cecily, could you love me if my name was Algernon?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I fear that I would not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, your rector here is, I'm sure, thoroughly experienced on the rites and ceremonies of the church.
Oh yes, Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man. He has never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must see him for the most important of christenings. I'm here business.
Oh?
I shall be back in half an hour.
Seeing as I have only met you today, and we have been engaged since the 14th of February last, I feel it is rather hard that you should leave me for so long a period as a half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back as soon as I can.
What an impetuous boy he is. I like his hair so much. I must enter his proposal into my diary.
Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing on a very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Isn't Mr. Worthing in his library?
Mr. Worthing went in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Pray ask the lady to come out here. Mr. Worthing is sure to be back soon, and you can bring tea.
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax. I suppose one of the many good elderly women who are associated with Uncle Jack in some of his philanthropic work in London. I don't quite like women interested in philanthropic work. I think it is so forward of them.
Miss Fairfax.
Pray let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew. What a very sweet name. Something tells me we are going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say. And my first impressions of people are never wrong.
How nice of you to like me so much after such a comparatively short time. Pray sit down.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
With pleasure.
And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
If you wish.
Then that's all quite settled, is it not?
I hope so.
Perhaps this might be a favourable opportunity for my mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You have never heard of Papa, I suppose?
I don't think so.
Outside the family circle, Papa, I'm glad to say, is entirely unknown. I think that is quite as it should be. The home seems to me to be the proper sphere for the man, and certainly once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, does he not? And I don't like that. It makes men so very attractive. Cecily, Mamma, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. So do you mind if I look at you through my glasses?
Oh, not at all, Gwendolyn. I'm very fond of being looked at.
You're here short to visit, I suppose?
Oh no, I live here.
Really? Your mother, no doubt, or some other female relative of advanced years besides her also?
Oh no, I have no mother, nor in fact any relations.
Indeed.
My dear guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
Yes, I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh, it is strange. He never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive of him. I cannot say, however, that the news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight. I am very fond of you, Cecily. I've liked you ever since I met you, but I am know you are Mr. Wether's ward, I cannot help expressing a wish you were, well, just a little bit older than you seem to be, and not so quite very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly, Cecily.
Oh, pray do. I believe that whenever anyone has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid.
Well, to speak with perfect candor, I wish that you were fully 42 and more than usually plain. Ernest has a strong nature. He is the very soul of truth and honor. Disloyalty would be as impossible to him as deception. But even men of the noblest possible moral character are extremely susceptible to the physical charms of others. Modern, no less than ancient history, supplies us with many most painful examples of what I refer to. If it were not so, indeed, history would be quite agreeable.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolen. Did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Oh, but it is not Mr. Earnest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother, his elder brother.
Ernest never mentioned to me that he had a brother.
I am sorry to say that they have not been on good terms for a long time.
Ah, that accounts for it. And now that I think of it, I have never heard any man mention his brother before. The subject seems distasteful to most men. Cecily, you have lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would have been terrible if any cloud had come across a friendship like ours, would it not? But of course, you are quite sure that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian?
Quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon.
Dearest Gwendolen, there is no reason why I should make a secret of it to you. Our little county newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact next week. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
My darling Cecily, I think there must be some slight error. Mr. Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will appear on the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest.
You must be under some strange misconception. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It is certainly very curious, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you would care to verify the incident, pray do so. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read in a train. I'm so sorry, dear Cecily, if it is any disappointment to you, but I'm afraid I have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I can tell you, dear Gwendolen, if it caused you any mental or physical anguish, but I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to you, he clearly has changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been entrapped into any foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him in with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have got into, I will never reproach him with it after we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you! Now is no time for wearing the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I'm glad to see I've never seen a spade. It is obvious that our social spheres have been widely different. Shall I take you as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual.
Are there any interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Oh yes, a great many. From the top of one of the hills quite close, one can see 5 counties.
5 counties? I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that is why you live in town.
Quite a well-kept garden this is, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were any flowers in the country.
Oh, flowers are as common here, Miss Fairfax, as people are in London.
Personally, I cannot imagine how anybody manages to exist in the country, if anybody, who is anybody, does. The country always bores me to death.
This must be what the newspapers call agricultural depression, is it not? I believe the aristocracy are suffering very much from it just at present. It is almost an epidemic amongst them, I've been told. May I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you. Just a girl. But I require tea.
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar's not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen at the best houses nowadays.
Hand that to Miss Fairfax.
You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar, and though I asked most distinctly for bread and butter, you have given me cake! I am known for the gentle disposition of my character and the very sweetness of my nature, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I felt that you were falsely deceitful. I am never deceived in such matters. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I am trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you have many other calls of a similar character to make in the neighborhood.
Ernest! My own Ernest.
Gwendolyn, darling.
A moment. Are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
Little Cecily? No, what would put a silly little thought of that pretty little head of yours?
Thank you. You may.
I knew there must have been some mistake. The gentleman whose arm is at present round your waist is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon?
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack! Oh!
Here is Ernest.
My own one.
A moment. May I ask, are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To what young lady? Good heavens, Gwendolyn!
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolyn. I mean to Gwendolyn.
Of course not. What put such an idea in your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I felt there was some slight error, Miss Cardew. The gentleman who is now embracing you is my cousin, Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief? Oh! Are you really called Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. But the truth is, my name is John. It has been John for years.
A gross deception has been practiced on the both of us.
My poor wounded Gwendolyn. I mean, Cecily.
My sweet, wronged Gwendolyn.
You will call me sister, will you not?
There is just one question I would like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. Miss Worthing, where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest, so I think it's of some importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it pains me to have to speak truthfully. I've never been pressed to such a matter before. But the fact is, I have no brother, Ernest. I have no brother at all.
No brother at all?
None.
Not a brother of any kind.
Not even of any kind.
It seems to me, Miss Cardew, that neither of us are engaged to be married to anyone.
It's not a very pleasant position for a young girl to suddenly find herself in, is it?
Let us go into the house. They would hardly venture after us there.
No, that is so cowardly, aren't they?
This is what you call bunburying, I suppose?
Yes, what a perfectly wonderful bunbury it is.
But yes.
The most wonderful bunbury I have ever had in my life.
Well, you're certainly not allowed to bunbury here.
One has a right to bunbury wherever one pleases. Every serious bunbury knows that.
Serious bunbury. Good heavens!
One must be serious about something if one wants to have any pleasure in life. I happen to be serious about bunbury. I don't know if you're serious, but I haven't the remotest idea about everything I should fancy. You're such a most trivial nature.
The only small satisfaction I have in all of this is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You can't come down to the country as often as you like.
Your brother is a little off colour, isn't he, dear Jack? You want to be able to scamper off to London as often as your wicked custom was. Another bad thing either.
As for your conduct with Miss Cardew in taking a young girl like her, it's unacceptable. To say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
I see no possible excuse of you receiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax. To say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
I wanted to be married to Gwendolyn. That is all.
I want to be married to Cecily. I adore her.
Well, I certainly don't see that happening now.
I see no possibility of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
Well, that is certainly none of your business.
Well, if it was my business, I wouldn't talk about it. It's very vulgar to talk about one's business. Only stockbrokers do that, and then only at dinner parties.
How you can sit there, eating muffins at a time like this, I can't understand. You're perfectly heartless.
Dear Jack, when I'm in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I'm in really great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything except food and drink. Right now, I'm eating muffins because I'm unhappy. Besides, I'm particularly fond of muffins.
Well, there's no reason for you to be eating them in that pretty way.
I wish you could have some tea cake instead. I don't like tea cake.
I suppose a man can have his own muffins in his own garden?
You just said it was perfectly heartless to eat muffins.
I said it was perfectly heartless for you to eat muffins under the circumstances, but that is completely different.
Well, the muffins are the same.
Algernon, I wish to goodness you would go.
Well, you can't ask me to leave without having dinner. I never go without my dinner. Only vegetarians and people like that ever go without their dinner. Besides, I've just made arrangements with Dr. Choswell to be christened under the name of Earnest at 6:30.
Well, the sooner you forget about that, the better. I have an appointment with Dr. Choswell to be christened at 5:30. And I will naturally take the name of Earnest. Gwendolyn would wish it. Besides, I don't believe I've ever been christened, and Dr. Choswell thinks it highly probable I never was. You have been christened.
Yes, but I've not been christened for years.
But you have been christened. That is the point.
So I know my constitution can stand it. I think it's very dangerous that you're venturing on it now. You cannot forget that someone very close to you was very nearly taken off in Paris by a severe chill.
But you said a severe chill wasn't hereditary.
It wasn't, but it is now. Science is always making wondrous improvements in things.
Oh, that is nonsense.
Jack, you are at the muffins again. I told you I like muffins.
But I don't like tea cake.
Then why do you serve to guests? What ideas do you have of hospitality?
Algernon, I wish to goodness you would go. Why don't you go?
I haven't quite finished my tea yet. And there's still 4 muffins left.
The fact that they did not follow us into the house at once, as anyone else would have done, seems to me to show that they still have some sense of shame left.
They have been eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
They don't seem to notice us at all. Couldn't you cough?
But I haven't got a cough.
But look at us. What a French spirit.
They're approaching. That is very formal of them.
Let us preserve dignified silence.
Certainly, it is the only thing to do now.
This dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect.
A most distasteful one.
But we will not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
would like to be permitted to put you.
Gwendolyn, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I might have an opportunity of meeting you.
That certainly seems a satisfactory explanation, does it not?
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
I don't, but that doesn't affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True. And matters of style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer to me for pretending to have a brother? Was it in order that you might have an opportunity of coming up to town to see me as often as possible?
Can you doubt it, Miss Van Dyke?
I have a grave stance upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. This is not the moment for German skepticism. The explanation seemed to be quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's.
I am more than content with what Mr. Moncrief said. His voice alone inspires one with absolute credulity.
So you think we should forgive them?
Yes. I mean, no.
True. There are principles at stake that one cannot surrender. What if I should tell them? The task is not possible.
Could we not both speak at the same time?
An excellent idea. I nearly always speak at the same time as others. You will take the time with me?
Of course.
Your Christian names are still in insuperable burial.
That is all.
Our Christian names? Is that all? But we have been christened this afternoon.
For my sake, you are prepared to do this terrible thing?
I am.
To please me, you are willing to face this fearful ordeal?
I am.
How absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes, where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned. Men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
They have moments of physical courage of which we women know absolutely nothing.
Darling.
Darling.
Lady Brendel.
Good heavens.
Gwendolyn, what does this mean? Merely that I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mama.
Come here, sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is my mental decay in the young and a physical weakness in the old. A prize, sir, my daughter sacrificed by her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased by means of a small coin. Her unhappy father is, I'm glad to say, under the influence that she was at the university, attending a more than usually lecture on thought. I must plan to undeceive him. In fact, I never undeceived him on anything I consider wrong. But of course, you will understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm.
I am engaged to Gwendolyn, Lady Brendel.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now as regards Algernon. Algernon.
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
Is it in this house your invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, resides?
Oh, no. Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? Well, when did Mr. Bunbury die? His death must have been extremely sudden.
Bunbury? Oh, I killed him this afternoon. I mean, poor Bunbury died this afternoon.
Well, what did he die of?
Bunbury? Oh, he was quite exploded.
Exploded? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was a victim of revolutionary outrage. I was not aware that he was interested in social legislation. If so, he is well punished for his morbidity.
My dear Aunt Augusta, what I mean is, he was found out. The doctors found out that Bunbury could not live. That is what I mean. So, Bunbury died.
It seems he had great confidence in the opinion of his physicians, and I am glad that after all he came to a definite decision and under proper medical advice. Now that we've got rid of this Mr. Bunbury, Mr. Worthing, may I ask you whose hand my nephew Algernon is now holding in what seems to me a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That lady, Lady Brendel, is my ward, Miss Cecily Cardew.
I am engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married, Lady Bradford.
in this peculiar part of Hertfordshire, but the number of engagements that go on seem to me above the proper average that statistics have laid down for our guidance. Some preliminary inquiry would be past my part, Mr. Worthing. Is Miss Cardew connected to any of the larger railway stations in London? I really desire information. Until yesterday, I didn't know anyone whose family's origins was a terminus.
Miss Cecily Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, Gervais Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporan, Fifeshire, NB.
3 addresses always inspires confidence, even a tradesman, but what prove, however, the authenticity?
I have preserved the court guides and periods, Lady Bracknell. They are open to your inspection.
I have known strange errors in that publication.
Family solicitors are Messrs. Markby, and Markby.
Markby, and Markby, a firm of the very highest position in their profession. In fact, I even told one of the Mr. Markbys to be seen at dinner parties. So far, I am satisfied.
How kind of you, Lady Bracknell. I also have in my possession documents of her birth, baptism, whooping cough, registration, vaccination, confirmation, and the measles, the English and German variety.
A light crowd with incident, I see, although perhaps probably too much for a young girl. I'm not, and myself, a fan of premature experiences. Come, Gwendolyn, the time approaches for our departure, but we have not a moment to lose. As a matter of form, Miss Worthing, is Miss Cardew with a little fortune?
Oh, about £130,000 in the funds. That's all, Lady Bracknell. Pleased to have seen you. Goodbye.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000 and in the funds. Miss Cardew seems the most attractive young lady. Well, now that I look at her, few girls of the present day have any really solid qualities or any qualities that improve with time. We live, I regret to say, in an age of services. Come over here. Oh, pretty child, your dress is, sadly simple, and your hair is, almost as if nature might have left it. But a thoroughly experienced French maid can alter all that in a very brief span of time. In fact, I recommended one to Emily Lansing, and after 3 months, her own husband didn't know her.
And after 6 months, nobody knew her.
Come to around, sweet child. Oh, no, the side view is what I want. Yes, quite as I expected. There are distinct social possibilities in your profile. Our 2 weak points of our age are its wants of principle and its wants of profile. The chin is a high, dear. Style largely depends on where the chin is worn. They are worn very high, just at present. Algernon?
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
There are distinct social possibilities in Cecily's profile.
Cecily is the sweetest, prettiest, most perfect girl in the world. Adding it 2 social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully to society, Algernon. Only people getting into it do that. But dear child, you do know that Algernon has nothing but his gifts to depend upon, and I do not approve of mercenary marriages. When I met Lord Bracknell, I had no little fortune of my own. Oh well, I suppose it didn't stop me from getting in my way. I must say, I must give my consent.
Darling. Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may also address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The marriage, I think, should take place quite soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
To speak frankly, I'm not in favour of engagements. They give one the opportunity of finding out his characters before marriage, which I think is never advisable.
Pray, excuse me, Lady Bracknell, but as Miss Cardew's guardian, I cannot consent.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is extremely, may I say ostentatiously eligible young man. He has nothing, but he looks everything. What more can one desire?
I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible! He is not so near.
It pains me not to speak truthfully about your nephew, Lady Bracknell, but earlier this afternoon he obtained entrance to my home under false pretense of being my brother. and drank, I had just been informed by my butler, an entire pint bottle of my Perrier Jouet brew, wine I was specifically reserving for myself. He then spent the entirety of the afternoon alienating the affections of my only ward, and subsequently stayed to tea and ate every single muffin. All while knowing I never had a brother, I don't have a brother, and I never will have a brother, not even of any kind. I specifically told him so yesterday afternoon.
Ahem! Mr. Worthing, after careful consideration, I have decided to entirely overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
How perfectly kind of you, Lady Bracknell. My own decision, however, is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
How old are you, dear?
Well, I'm really only 18, but I always admit to 20 when I go to evening parties.
And you are perfectly right in doing so. Women should never be so accurate about their age. Looks can be so calculating. 18, then to be 20 when going to evening parties. Soon you'll be free from the trains of tutelage, and I don't think your guidance consent is after all that necessary.
Pray, excuse me again, Lady Bracknell, but according to her grandfather's will, she does not come of age until she is 35.
That does not seem to me a very grave objection. London society is full of women of the very highest who have claimed to have been 35 for years. Lady Dumbledon is an instance in point. To my own knowledge, she's been 35 ever since she arrived at the age of 40, which has been many years now. I don't see why it is necessary one to be any more prettier than she is at present than the age you mentioned now. There will be a large accumulation of property.
Could you wait for me till I was 35, Algie?
Of course I could, Cecil. You know I could.
Yes, I felt it instinctively, but I couldn't possibly wait all that time. I hate waiting even 5 minutes for anybody. It always makes me rather cross. I'm not punctual myself, I know, but I do admire punctuality in others, and waiting even to be married is quite out of the question.
Then what is it you've done, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew states positively that she cannot wait till she's 35, a remark I'm bound to say seems a bit of an impatient nature. I would beg of you to reconsider your decision.
Oh, but Lady Bracknell, the decision is entirely in your own hands. As soon as you consent to my marriage with Gwendolyn, I will allow your nephew to make an alliance with my ward.
You know that what you ask is out of the question.
Their passionate celibacy is all we can look forward to.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolyn. Algernon can choose for himself. Come, dear, we've missed 5, if not 6 trains, and you're about to come to the platform.
Everything's quite ready for christenings.
The christening, sir, is that not somewhat premature?
Both of these gentlemen have expressed desire for immediate baptism.
At their age, the idea is grotesque and religious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. What would that Bracknell think if that is how he found out that was how you're spending your time and money?
I can understand that no christenings at all then.
I don't feel as things are now that it would be of any practical value.
I'm grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. They align themselves so well with the views of the Anabaptists, views I've refuted in 4 unclever sermons. However, as your mood does seem quite secular, I'll be leaving, as I've just been informed by one of my pupils. Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry for the last hour and a half.
Miss Prism? Did I hear you mention Miss Prism?
Why, yes, Lady Bracknell. I'm on my way to go see her.
Pray, allow me to detain you for a moment. This may be of vital importance to Lord Bracknell and myself. Is this Miss Prism, female of repellent aspect and moderately connected with education?
She's most cultivated of days and utmost of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. What position does she hold in your household?
I'm a Senate, madam.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been for the last 3 years Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
In spite of what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Let her be sent for.
She's not.
I was told you expected me in the vestry, dear Canon. I waited for you there for 1 hour and 3/4.
Prism! Come here, Prism. 28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's charge of a perambulator that contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. And after an elaborate investigation of the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was found at midnight in a remote corner of Bayswater. Inside the perambulator contained a 3-volume novel of more than usually lengthy sentimentality, but the baby was not there. Prism, where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I am ashamed that I do not know. I only wish I did. The plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day that you mentioned, a day forever branded on my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out of its perambulator. I had also with me a somewhat old, capacious handbag in which I had intended to place the manuscript of a work of fiction I had written in my few unoccupied hours. In a moment of mental abstraction, for which I can never forgive myself, I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and placed the baby in the handbag.
But where did you put that handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing!
Miss Prism, this is of no little importance to me. I must know where you placed that handbag that contained that child.
I left it in one of the cloakrooms of one of the larger railway stations in London.
What railway station?
Victoria, the Brighton line.
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolyn, wait here for me.
I'll wait with you all my life if you're not too long.
What do you think the meaning of this is, Lady Bracknell?
I don't even suspect, Dr. Chasuble. You need to know that in families of high society, coincidences like these don't happen. They simply aren't the thing.
Uncle Jack seems strangely agitated.
Your darling does have a very emotional nature.
It sounds as if he was having an argument. I dislike arguments of any kind. They're always vulgar. They're often convincing.
It is stop now.
Now I wish to arrive at some conclusion.
Fade it down.
This is terrible. I hope it will last.
Good job, Lily. Good job. Good
Is
job,
this
Alex.
a handbag, Miss Prism? Examine it carefully. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
I think the actual baby might be in there.
Yes! Here is the injury it received during the upsetting of a Gower Street omnibus in younger and happier days. And here is a stain on the lining from the explosion of a temperance beverage, an incident that occurred in Leamington.
Yeah, they're
And here
moving.
are the lot of my initials. I forgot in an extravagant mood I had them placed there. The bag is undoubtedly mine. I'm delighted to have it so unexpectedly returned to me after all this time. It's been a great inconvenience being without it all these years.
Miss Prism, more is returned to you in that handbag. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes, Mother!
Mr. Worthing! I am unmarried.
I'm married. I do not deny that is a serious blow. But who is one to throw stones at one who has suffered? Cannot repentance act wipe out one's act of folly? Why must we have one law for man and another for women? Mother, I forgive you!
Mr. Worthing! There is some Emma. There is a lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, excuse my questioning, but can you please enlighten me on who I am?
I'm afraid the news will not altogether please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother? So I have a brother after all. I always knew I had a brother. Cecily, I told you I had a brother. How did you ever doubt me? Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Dr. Chasuble, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother. Algy, you have never treated me as a brother before.
Well, not till today, old boy, though I admit I was out of practice.
My own! But what are you now that you have become someone else?
That is a good question. I suppose your decision on the name is unalterable?
I never change, except my affections.
Aunt Augusta, at the time that Miss Prism had lost me, had I been christened,
Every luxury, including christenings, had been given to you by your fond and doting parents.
Right, then what was my Christian name?
Oh, naturally, being the firstborn son, you were christened after your father.
And what was his Christian name?
I cannot at the present moment remember what the general's Christian name was, but I have no doubt he had one. He was eccentric, I admit, but only in later years. That was before the Indian climate, the marriage, the indigestion, and well, other things of that kind.
Algernon. Surely you remember our father's name?
We weren't even on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
Well, his name would appear in the army list of the period.
The general was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life. I have no doubt his name would appear in any military directory.
Well, the army lists of the last 40 years are here. They should have been my constant study. Ah. Them generals. Arlem, Moxbom, Magley. What ghastly names they have. Markby, Migsby, Mobbs, Moncrief, Lieutenant 1840, Captain Lieutenant Colonel, Colonel General 1869. Christian names, Earnest, John. I always told you, Gwendolyn, my name was Earnest, and it truthfully is.
Yes, I now remember the general's name was Earnest. I knew he had a particular reason for disliking the name.
It is truly wrong for a man to find out he has been telling the truth his whole life. Can you forgive me, Gwendolyn?
I can, for I feel you are sure to change.
Oh, Gwendolyn.
Letitia.
Frederick, at last.
Cecily at last.
Gwendolyn at last.
My nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I have now realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.